Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. Just 4 days to go until British Champions Day at Ascot, Saturday the 15th of October. I covered a lot of the main storylines and contenders in last week's video, and plenty has happened since then, to be fair. First things first, the going. It's the middle of October. It's always a talking point in regards to British Champions Day. It's currently good to soft with 7mm of rain recorded in the last 7 days. That's up until about Tuesday afternoon. Rain is forecast for later in the week. How much of it they get is the question. Depending on what forecast you use, you could have anything between 9 and 20-ish mil between Thursday and Saturday. The update from the clerk of the course on Tuesday was that it will be between 9 and 13 mil before racing on Saturday. Pretty much mid-October ground as far as I can see. Good to soft with a bit of rain forecast. I mean, 9, 10, 11 mil isn't going to be catastrophic. So, yeah, it's going to be on the softer side of good. Maybe good to soft in places, something along those lines. What's happened since the last video? Well, the 5-day decks are in. There's no real surprises, to be honest. A lot of them have stood their ground, so we'll go through it in chronological order. The first race on Saturday is the long-distance course at 125. QEII is probably the headline horse not left in at the 5-day stage. We suspected that might happen on last week's video where he was 5 to 2-ish, when really if he was a confirmed or intended runner, he would have been a lot shorter than that. Anyway, he's not going to the long distance cup. He's had a long and very successful season and will be back for more Group 1s and Gold Cups, etc. for next year and beyond. I'm sure of that. QEII, a superstar of the Staying Division and one that I really like, actually, to be fair. Trushan is the 2-1 favourite and former winner of this race. Looks set to run, given the forecast. If they've soft in their description, Trushan normally does run. That 2-1 could be tempting for a few, because surely he'd be shorter than that if it wasn't for his almost unthinkable defeat at 2-9 at Doncaster last month. If that blot on the record had not occurred, you could imagine, given QEII and the likes of Stradivarius, Mojo Star aren't running in this, you could imagine Trushan would be shorter than 2-1, but that's where we are. A lot went wrong for him that day at Doncaster. He's pulled quite hard actually on his last 2 starts, which is interesting for a 6-year-old to be seeing that habit occur rather than diminish as he gets older and more experienced. But yeah, a lot went wrong at Doncaster. There was question marks over the ride, frankly, by Holly Doyle. Holly will be doing the riding again. There'll be plenty of opinion on Trushan this weekend, for and against. He's a definite hindsight kind of betting prospect, Trushan, to be fair. Certainly not one I'll be getting involved in either way, not backing or laying. But if he wins, there'll be loads that say 2-1 is a gift. If he gets beat, there'll be those saying that he's been on the slide in recent starts. There's little doubt, if Trushan is at his best at Ascot on soft ground, where he's shown some of his best before, is surely better than this lot. He's a miles clear on some of the ratings, official and RPRs. Waterville for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore is 11-4. Must be the worst price of any horse running on Champions Day, to be honest. He's a full £16 behind Trushan on official ratings. Winner of the Irish last time, which is a handicap of 99. His only 2 career wins have come in Irish handicap. Yet he's yes, he is a 3-year-old and carries £9 less than Trushan for being a 3-year-old. But that still leaves 7, 8 or more pounds that he's got to find and improve upon. He might be an improving horse, but he's yet to show it out of handicaps. And this race, more than any in the British racing calendar, is a Group 1 in all but name. It is officially a Group 2. Still a big leap to be made by the likes of Waterville, but would you put it past Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore making that leap? You certainly wouldn't. Another 3-year-old and recent St. Ledger winner, Eldarov, is 7-2 currently in the market, but not certain to run, according to Roger Varian. He would be a really interesting runner if he was turning up. Was the St. Ledger form any good? We would get the chance to find out. Away from them, it's the usual suspects. Coltrane, Quickthorn have both had runs in their own right this year, as has Trawlerman and Princess Zoe's ran well in this race before. Search for a Song from Ireland has been round the block more than a few times. So plenty of angles into the race, and I can see it being quite a popular betting race. But as for me picking a winner of the long distance cup, it's rare I have a strong opinion in staying races anyway, and that's unlikely to change this weekend. On to the champion sprint, Group 1. Virtually every horse that we mentioned from last week has stood their ground at the 5-day stage. There's 19 contenders, 20 can run, so if all 19 wanted to run, they could at this stage. Art Power, Castle Star, Double or Bubble were the ones I flagged last week of interest. No trigger in the betting sense has been pulled on those yet, and I will definitely be waiting till Thursday to get involved on them or not. One that I would be more than happy to advise at this stage. Yes, we're 4 days out. Yes, we're still operating under anti-post rules, but Perfect Power looks a standout to me at 10 to 1. I looked at this race again today. Ladbrokes are 10 to 1. We don't normally call out individual bookmakers, but they're 10s and everyone else is 8. It is worth flagging. Tom Marquand is all but confirmed to be taking over from Christophe Soumillon. He's been a pretty busy boy on and off the track recently, as we know. I just think there's a lot going for Perfect Power. I think that Connections think he is quicker than he is this season. They've campaigned him that he's quicker than he is. And to be honest, I think the stiff 6 furlongs at Ascot really suits him. That's where he has produced his career best performance so far. We'll come on to that in a moment. But it's probably a 7 furlong horse in truth. He tried that first time up this season in the Greenham where he won really well, to be honest. And he might well end up as a 7 furlong horse next year as a 4-year-old if he's coming back. On the face of it, Perfect Power has been disappointing on his last 2 starts. He was 9 to 4 favourite for the July Cup, but got no way near winning that day. That's a very fast 6 furlongs, and he just never travelled, partially downhill actually on the July course over 6. He then in his next race went off 21 to 10 favourite for the Maurice de Geese. That was over 6.5 furlongs, and he's finished 7th there. It doesn't read well on the face of it, but look who finished in front of him, particularly at in France for the Maurice de Geese. If you write off the July Cup, if you look at the Maurice de Geese in France, he's finished 7th. There was 4 brilliant horses really finished in front of him that day, or borderline brilliant. Noble Crown was one of them, won the Platinum Jubilee earlier in the season of Group 1, and he was 2nd in the July Cup. Unlucky, he also could run in this race. Rohan finished in front in France, 2nd fav for this race on Saturday, and won well at Ascot last time. I think that was a listed or a Group 3 race. Minzhou was 2nd in the Maurice de Geese, won the Sprint Cup on his next start at ADOT Group 1, retired since. Highfield Princess won in France, has wazzed up in 2 Group 1 since, so it is really strong form. Perfect Power was only 3 lengths behind Highfield Princess that day. He didn't travel particularly well, but like I say, the return to softer ground and Ascot stiffer track may put paid to that, and he might settle better with a bit of a more testing 6 furlongs. He doesn't have to face Highfield Princess or Minzhou this Saturday. You could argue with some force really that the Maurice de Geese was a harder race or a better race with more quality than this race in question, the British Champion Stakes on Saturday. So it might be an easier assignment, this one. If either Minzhou or Highfield Princess were running in this race, they would be clear favourite if running, and they're not, basically. Perfect Power will like the softer going. He's produced a career best at Ascot at the Royal meeting earlier this year, won the Group 1 Commonwealth Cup. Really quite impressive that they dominated the race, to be honest. He's going to have to perform better or to win this, given that these are better sprinters than the 3-year-olds on offer that day in the Commonwealth Cup. But he's had a 69-day break to freshen up. There is a lot to like about this 10 to 1 shot. Perfect Power is an intended runner, and I think we should be betting him now, and I will be betting him now, and I think you guys should as well. Onto the Fillies and Mares, where I put up Eternal Pearl last week as the only bet on the initial preview video at 7 to 1. She's now best price 5 to 1. There's nothing to write home about there. I'm not getting carried away. Above the Curve has come out. There's still 17 entered at this stage, but there's a few to come out of that, surely. There's quite a few trainers have got 2 or 3 entries. For example, got the Gosdens, Haggis has got 2 or 3 entries. Hopefully not as many runners as that turn up with our bet on Eternal Pearl in mind. 7-2 shot Emily Upjohn will be the headliner. She'll probably be the favourite if indeed she does line up. But big questions to answer. She was dismal in the King George when last seen at Ascot over course and distance in July. And other than Nashwa, was the Oaks form any good? Emily Upjohn was 2nd in the Oaks, potentially unlucky on the day, but other than Tuesday, not done a lot since, nothing else in behind has at all. Nashwa being the exception to that. So is Emily Upjohn that good? She was pretty awful on her last start. Certainly a race to wait for the final decks before getting involved. Like I say, I think that 17 runners is going to be whittled down significantly between now and Saturday. Onto the QE2 over a mile. I predicted a small field last week, and there's 10 potential runners at the moment. In Spiral, he's odds on across the board. I think that's probably right. I looked at the race initially with a view to taking her on, as is usual for me when there's an odds-on favourite, but I think 10 to 11 is about right. She's not rock solid by any means, and I think the bookies will possibly try and take her on with with the field now starting to take shape. Big news in this race is that recent impressive Leopardstown Group 2 winner Jadumi was supplemented for this race on Monday by the Crisfords. That comes at a cost of £70,000, so he's obviously in rude health and fancies his chances of getting at least some of that money back this weekend at Ascot. Jadumi only had one start in 2021, a bit of a forgotten horse really coming into this season in 2022, but he has clearly thrived since his return back. He's gobbled up a listed race and 2 Group 2s. The Irish Champions weekend win was in the Group 2. It took his form to a whole new level, to be honest. He won that race by 4 lengths in impressive fashion. It was a massive step up on anything he's done before. It was a poor Group 2 in fairness, but we can all be clever after the event. Jadumi 7-1 to win this weekend, and a real interesting runner. The fly in the ointment in regards to the QE2 is without question Modern Games, trained by Charlie Appleby, probably ridden by William Buick as normal. He's currently a 7-2 shot, but still not a certain runner. The more rain they have or the softer the ground is, the less likely he is to run. He's got preference for quicker ground. I think he's unlikely to be going to Ascot this weekend, in my opinion. He's not going to get that ground that he wants, and he's surely more likely to return to the Breeders' Cup. I could be wrong. He could run here and in the Breeders' Cup. Even if he does run, that soft ground is going to blunt his ability, in my opinion. The best bet at this stage is the Revenant, absolutely no doubt. He's a definite runner, a former winner of the race. He was 4th last year behind Baid. The weather forecast is fine for the Revenant. A perfectly good prep run on Arc weekend, and Ryan Moore is booked to ride already. They've got Ryan Moore on the board nice and early, the French connections, and there's no Aidan O'Brien runners at this stage. So he was 6-1 in places when I started writing these notes for this video, and that would have been better, but he's now 5-1, which is a little bit short when you're going to advise to back him each way. But I think he's an each way poke for a variety of reasons. Some already have been given. Firstly, Inspiral could be a superstar that some think she is and win easily, so you need to be covered each way there for obvious reasons. But more importantly, the Revenant will be significantly shorter, in my opinion, when Modern Games is not declared and doesn't run. I could be wrong. Modern Games might well run, but at this stage, I just don't think he will. And I think, you should be getting on the 5-1 each way. The Revenant. On to the main event in many ways, the Champion Stakes. It's as you were, 1-4 Bailly to finish his career unbeaten. This will be his 11th and final start. The general consensus is that Adayar will provide Baid with the sternest test ever in Baid's career. I'm not sure about that personally, given that Baid beat 5-time Group 1 winner Palace Pia on this very day last year. That was in the QE2. This is 2 furlongs further in the Champion. So Palace Pia, a very good horse. Very, very good horse. 5 Group 1 wins, and Baid saw him off last year. It was only a neck in the end, but I think it was more comfortable than that. Adayar, is he better than Palace Pia? I don't know. We could argue that all day. Let's put it another way. Adayar is probably the best horse, or almost certainly the best horse that Baid has faced this year. Adayar has had a very disjointed season. Wasn't seen until only a few weeks ago at Doncaster in September, but he comes here with as good a chance as any as beating Baid this year. Anyway, Baid is still miles clear on ratings. The 1-4 tells you that, and that's what the bookies think of his chances. He's a superstar, Baid, and I hope he goes out with an absolute bang. The Balmoral Handicap concludes the action on British Champions Day, and there's still 51 entered at this stage with a maximum field of 20, so there's no way in hell that I'll be giving a firm selection in that as yet. I'll be back on Thursday, and hopefully we can pick the winner of some races, including the finale. So thanks for watching. Do let me know who are your bankers and who you're most looking forward to on British Champions Day, as the flat season, unfortunately for me, comes to a bit of a close in the coming weeks, and particularly on Saturday at Ascot.